everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I wanted to take a minute to start off with and just say thank you to everyone for watching my videos and those of you who have subscribed. I really appreciate the support so far, and just thank y'all. And if you are enjoying it, share it with your friends and help get my name out there a little bit if you don't mind. But anyway, for today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our homeschooling. I have mentioned before that we homeschool, and I wanted to take a minute to explain the reasons why we have chosen this for our family. I'll be the first to tell you it's not for everyone. We certainly feel like it has been a really good fit for us, and we're very happy with it. And so I just thought that I would just kind of chat with you all about why we chose to homeschool and some of the reasons there. So the first reason that I want to talk about is the time and the fact that our kids are at home all day, every day. And so that greatly increases the number of hours that we can spend together as a family, that the kids can spend with each other, that I can spend with them, the time that we get to use to build relationships in this family. My husband and I both agree that friends are great. Having people outside of the household that you're friends with is important, but nothing is as important as these relationships that we are building within our family. And so having the hours so that the people in the household have the opportunity to build those relationships is so critical. And I was even doing some looking last night while I was getting ready for this, and looked up the average American household. The mom spends 3.5 hours a day with her children. Now, that's going to be in your public school homes. That's going to change whether or not the mom has a job outside the home and that sort of thing. But 3.5 hours a day. Now, those moms are making the most of it. I'm not knocking that. But that compared to, I spend all day with my kids, 12 hours plus. Now, not every bit of that is one-on-one time, but the majority of it is us working together in some capacity. We're in the house at the same time. We are cooperating with each other. We're getting to know each other. We're building memories. There's an awful lot of hours there to be able to develop a relationship. And so that's really important to me, as opposed to sending them away to school all day. And even the family time, because I also looked that one up just because I was curious, and it said that the same statistics showed that most American families spend about 6.5 hours a week as a family. And when you factor in the fact that my husband, the days that he works, he does work long hours. He goes to work in the morning before the kids are awake, and he comes home an hour and a half before they go to bed. So he doesn't have a lot of time with them during his work days, but then on the days that he is home, we're able to spend the whole day as a family if we were to choose to. At least we're all at home at the same time. And so again, there's just a lot more opportunities for us to get to spend time as a family, to get to build those relationships. Moving on from the time and building on that is another huge one for us, and that is the influence and the training that we are able to give our children at home versus sending them to school. So because my husband and I are born again believers, we both want to raise our children on the biblical principles that are taught in the Bible, and we want our kids to we hope that and pray that one day they will have a desire to follow God as much as we do. And in an effort to do that, and in order to do that, we feel that it is very important to take care of their minds and developing their young minds and what they are thinking about, what they are doing, where they're spending their time, and what energy, what activities they're involved in, and following along with the biblical teachings. The Bible has lots of passages about parents raising their children and the responsibility that is there. And while we certainly are not perfect, we are flawed just like everyone else, and we are not the perfect parents by any means, but we just feel like keeping the kids at home at this early age, to be able to handle the situations that come up from the influences that society has, and handle those a little bit differently. If they're at school all day and they're being exposed to a lot of ideas that are in the school system, that are in the world today, that don't line up with what the Bible says. And if I'm not there every day to hear what the teacher is saying, or the other students, or any other people that they're around, I can't even know, wait a minute, what conversations do we need to have at home, other than just trying to teach them the best I can. Whereas, since they are at home, we can focus on educational principles that are following biblical patterns. We are able to study even the school things that we study, whether it's I guess the big one that comes to mind is science, and how we can study science. I can choose a science curriculum that teaches from a biblical perspective, from a biblical worldview, and therefore I can teach them the truth without having to go back and say, well, the textbook said this, but the Bible doesn't agree with that. And be able to teach them that. And that's just, again, if I'm having to send them to school every day, and maybe I don't know what all they're being exposed to, and I feel like this is a better way to monitor what's going on in their world. And then as those hard subjects come up, or the things that come up that are in society and inevitably they're going to be exposed to, we can have those conversations from a biblical perspective, and we can sit down and say, okay, this is what that is, but this is what the Bible says, and so this is what we believe that we should be doing. And as the kids grow up and they become young adults, they get to make the choice whether they want to follow the beliefs that my husband and I have, follow Jesus as their Lord and Savior, or not. And that certainly is their decision one day. But my husband and I hope and pray that they will choose to continue this lifestyle, and the less that we allow the world to muddy the water in that respect, the better. If we can help them have a firm foundation now as young children, then as they get older and they're exposed to the other ideas in the world, and I'm not there to explain it, at least they will have a firm foundation to be able to look back on and hopefully make smart choices and make good choices. There's too much out there in the world that people are trying to teach young children that they just don't need to know yet. It's just not. Life needs to be simpler for the kids. The kids need to get to be kids. And so if we can keep them at home and train them in the biblical teachings, train them in righteousness, then that is what we want to do. Proverbs talks a lot, like I say, about the responsibility of the kids, of the parents raising the kids, and I don't want to mess that up. I want to give it the honest, best effort that I can. And this is how I feel like I can do that. The next reason that I sat down and wrote down was a little bit more fun. And it is the fact that we get to specialize the education that our children get to their specific interests. And that is something, in the public school system, all the kids are learning, the same things. And at home, we can, within a certain realm, aim into what that child is interested in. So we all have to do reading and math and handwriting and those sorts of things. But look at something fun like history or science. Science at a young age, like my kids are at now, can look like a lot of different things. It can be collecting bugs in the summertime and learning about the life cycle of a grasshopper. Or, as we also have been studying recently, it can be something a little bit more nerdy like astronomy. One of my children has really enjoyed learning about the planets and the solar system, and so we can feed into that, and I can take extra time and we can study this more and we can go in depth because I get to choose what curriculum we're using. And so we can feed that desire to learn. And if I'm doing nothing more than feeding their love of learning, then that's the point of all this, is that they would come away not only being able to be productive citizens in society, but also that they would love learning. And so if I can feed into the areas that I see that my children have special interest in and make it more fun for them, then they're gonna have more fun. They're gonna enjoy school. They're gonna want to do it. And so that makes it a lot of fun. And I can do that in many different subjects, many different ways. Even something as simple as learning in early math skills, when you're learning how many cups are in a pint and how many pints are in a quart. There is nothing more fun than taking that child to the kitchen sink, giving them measuring cups and water, and telling them, fill up this 1 cup measure. How many times does it take for that 1 cup measure to fill up that pint? How many pint jars of water does it take to fill up the quart? How many quarts does it take to fill up the gallon? They'll never forget that because you made it fun. And those are the things that I can take the time to do at home that a teacher with 20 students in first grade can't do that. It's not feasible. And so I can take the time at home to make learning fun, to make it more interesting, and to feed into any special desires and special interests. And on that, kind of moving on from that same idea, I want my kids to be able to do more in life than just score well on a test. We are very much focused on learning a skill. I want them to learn the subjects that they need to learn for a practical purpose in the end. We want our kids to one day be able to be critical thinkers, to be problem solvers, whether they work for someone else or they have their own business, building those critical thinking skills and not just focusing on can they pass their yearly exam so they can go on to the next grade. I'm not teaching for a test. I am teaching until I feel like that child has mastered this skill and now we can go on. And so the focus is different, and that's it. I feel like maybe not every school out there, but that has become such a focus in the public school world, is on testing your child and are they passing a test, and we're teaching to pass the test, and we kind of lose the big picture. And we are trying to kind of recapture that big picture so that our kids can be productive members of society one day. The last point that I wanted to make is that we get to pace our courses according to what our children need. If we have a student that maybe goes really fast and learns really fast, we can move ahead. They can be ahead in 1 or 2 subjects, and that's great. We can just keep moving, and when they're ready to learn new material, we bring in new material. They're not held back by someone else. And on the flip side of that, if I have a student who's struggling, who needs extra time in a certain area, then I can take time with that child and we can put in the extra time. We can slow down. We don't have to finish it as fast as everybody else is. And one thing that we have chosen to do in our family is to school pretty much year-round. We don't really take a summer break. Summers look a little different than the traditional school year for us because we do have some outside activities that happen that kind of slow us down from our everyday getting every subject done that we do during the school year. But we maintain the core subjects year-round. And that does a couple of things. It frees up time because then if I know that I have all calendar year to get a grade work done with that child, again, if they need to slow down and I need to stop and we need to stop using the textbook and for a month we just need to practice what we already have learned, I know that I have that time because the textbooks are still scheduled around a August to May schedule. So I know that I've got a couple extra months there that I can do what I need to for that child. And that frees up to where I don't feel pressured and I don't have to pressure that child. So again, we can learn at their pace. And on the flip side, if I have a kid who's moving really fast and they get their work, they get their book done for the year, or they get their level done for the year, I can either choose to, hey, you get to take an extra long break off of that subject and we're just going to kind of have fun for a couple of months before we start the next one. Or, you're doing really good. Let's go ahead and keep learning. And that way, if you get to a point down the road that you need time, we still have plenty of extra time. So all that to say, I can make it go as fast or as slow as each of my kids needs. And I now am teaching 3 of my 4 children. My oldest, like I said, is in 2nd grade. We have a 1st grader, and then the youngest is doing some preschool level work. And in adding the 3rd child this last year to actually having organized schoolwork each day has made me realize yet again how unique and different each of my children is and how each of their learning styles and learning speeds is different. I am so glad that I get to have the time at home to make it work for each one of my kids and give them what they need, because no one out there is going to care about my child's education as much as I do, or care about my child's well-being as much as I do. And I'm saying that including my husband. I'm not blocking him out of this, but as the primary one who is teaching, nobody else out there is going to care as much as I do. And I guess the last fun bonus that I will add to this that just came to mind on the homeschooling is the fact that because the schedule is our own, we can take off and go on vacations whenever we want to. And that is something that my family growing up homeschooled, my parents would often take vacations in the fall when everybody else went back to school. And so that way places weren't as crowded. We could go someplace and there weren't hardly any people there. There definitely weren't very many kids there. And we could go and we could spend time, and it was quieter. And it didn't matter because we either did school through part of the summer or we just made up for it when we got back. But because we were homeschooled, we could work around it, and it didn't hurt us any. And throughout the school year, if we needed to take off for other activities, we were heavily involved in 4-H and things like that. And so inevitably, there would be an activity or a competition that would take priority for a week or 2. But it worked out because we could always just go a couple of weeks longer in the summer with our schoolwork, and we would end up, we never were behind at the end of the year. We just were able to shift things as we needed to. And while my children are kind of just now to the point that we have activities outside of the home that affect our schedule, so we're not quite to that point yet. Again, the vacationing is definitely an option. The fact that my husband and I can choose to go whenever. The only thing that holds us down is my husband's job, and he has to have vacation time. But we can go at any time in a year, and the schoolwork can work around it. And I don't have to feel guilty about missing a day here or there because I know that we get it worked out in the meantime. And so anyway, those are just kind of some of my reasons why we have chosen to homeschool, why it's been a really good fit for us. Again, I admit that it is not for everybody. We're very thankful to have this opportunity. I'm thankful to live in a country that allows us to do this, in a state that is very open-minded towards this, so there isn't a lot of regulation involved, and we can do, to the majority of the extent, what we want to with it, as long as I'm actually teaching the kids. I can do it how I want to do it. And I'm very thankful for that. Very thankful that God has again provided a way for me to be at home so that this can be the lifestyle that we live. So anyway, I hope that y'all have enjoyed this, maybe found it interesting, and I will see you next time. Bye.